Hello everyone. So, in this lecture I am going to discuss about the anatomy and function of the small intestine and the large intestine. In the previous lecture of this digestive system, we have discussed about the anatomy of the GI tract, and then also we have covered in reference with the stomach also. So, let us start with this lecture. Anatomy and function of small intestine. We will start with a brief introduction on the small intestine. What do you mean by small intestine? So, it is the extension part from the stomach and it is in between of the stomach and the large intestine. Yes. Now, see, it lies between the stomach and large intestine area. About the length, so it is nearly 5 meters long. Yes, and 2.5 centimeter in diameter. I will see about the digestion. So, majority of the nutrient absorption or the digestion is occurring in this part, which is very important. Yes. So, remember this thing, 90% of the digestion and absorption of food occurs in this area, whereas we will see the 10% means the left out, that 10% is occurring in the stomach area as well as in the large intestine. Now, chemical digestion of the food is completed and absorption of most nutrient is there. See, the small intestine comprises of 3 continuous parts. Now, what are these 3 parts? So, here because it is in between of stomach and the large intestine, so you can see the stomach area, and this is from there is a large intestine area. In between of it you can see these colors. So, the first part of the small intestine is the duodenum. This is the first part. I will see the extension of duodenum. So, there is another color that you can distinguish. So, the second part is the jejunum. Yes, and I will see the third part here in this color, that is the ileum. So, what are the 3 parts of the small intestine? First is the duodenum, and duodenum is that area from where most of the secretions are coming. Yes, like the content from the biliary tract, that is also coming there in the duodenum. Then the pancreatic juices, they are also coming in the duodenum area. Okay. So, that will cover in later slides how they are coming and what are the parts associated with it. So, first is the duodenum area, then second is jejunum, and third is the ileum. These are the 3 parts. So, part number 1, duodenum. Duodenum, which is you can see nearly up to this area, this duodenum is about 25 centimeter long. And how much the length of the small intestine? So, it is approximately, I told you, 5 meters long. Yes, in the previous slides also we have covered, this is 5 meter long. Yes, and the diameter is 2.5 centimeter. So, from this whole 5 meter long, the 25 centimeter length is for the duodenum. Yes, and it curves around the head of the pancreas. So, you will see there is a pancreas, we can see the structure. Yes, so it is forming the curving around the head of pancreas, this gland. Now, why this duodenum part is important, which I was also discussing, the same is written here. Secretions from the gallbladder means the bile juices, and pancreas means the pancreatic juices. So, these of the secretions merge in a common structure. These both secretions, they will come at a particular point, which is the hepatopancreatic ampulla. Yes. So, there we can see this is the secretions from the gallbladder, and there is a common cystic bile duct. So, the bile juices are coming from this area. Yes, and how this bile is forming? So, this bile is forming from the liver. So, we will see this green color structure, the bile is formed here in the liver, and it is coming in the gallbladder area, which is for the storage, means basically what it is doing, it is storing the bile juices. So, bile juices are stored here. Then you will see this is the pancreas, Now from the pancreas, the pancreatic juices are coming through this duct, and these pancreatic juices and bile juices, they are coming, and there is a common point, they are merging. That common point is known as hepatopancreatic ampulla, and they are entering the duodenum at the duodenal papilla. Duodenal papilla is the opening to the duodenum. Yes, so there is a one common structure, we can say, means the opening structure in the duodenum, that is a duodenum papilla, opening to the duodenum. That duodenum papilla is guarded by the ring. See, if there is a opening, there is a closure, there is a need of some gate. Yes, there is a gateway is required. So that gateway here is a ring of smooth muscle, hepatopancreatic sphincter of OD. Yes, so there we can see sphincter of OD, means if that particular gateway will open, of course the secretions that it will come in the duodenum area. Yes, I hope this is clear to all of you about why the duodenum part is important and how the these secretions from the gallbladder or the secretions from the pancreas, they are coming through this common duct in the duodenum through the help of the hepatopancreatic sphincter. Yes. Then coming to the second part of the small intestine, jejunum. Yes, this jejunum is the middle section of the small intestine, and it is about 2 meters. Yes, so the smallest part you will see in all of these 3 parts in the small intestine. So the smallest part is the duodenum, then after that is the jejunum, and I will see the ileum, that is approximately 3 meters. So the total length you can say approximately 5 meters 25 centimeter. Yes, 5 meter or 5 meter 25 centimeter, approximate is this one. So now see, the ileum region or terminal section is about 3 meters long and ends at ileocecal wall. There is another wall which is present at the last part of the small intestine, and it is opening in the large intestine. Yes, so that is the ileocecal wall. Now it controls the flow of material from the ileum to the cecum. Cecum is the in the later slide I will discuss about the large intestine. At that particular portion you will get to know about the cecum part. So cecum is the very initial part of the large intestine. Yes. So the from the ileum to the cecum, that content need to be regulated, the flow of that content need to be regulated. We don't require the regurgitation, means the backflow of the content. So to avoid it, there is a valves, ileocecal valves. Now coming to the structure of small intestine. In the previous lecture, I have covered about the basic structure of the GI tract, gastrointestinal tract. So there is a the composition of the gastrointestinal tract is of 4 layers. Yes, it starts from the peritoneum, which is also known as adventitia, or it is also known as serosa. In the abdominal cavity, it is known as peritoneum. Yes, this is the outermost layer. Then below of it is the muscle layer. Muscle layer is also of 2 types. One is longitudinal and then there is a circular. Then after that there is a submucosa. Yes, and the innermost layer is the mucosa. The last layer is the mucosa, which is also formed of 3 layers. Yes, there is a columnar, inner one is the columnar epithelium, then there is a lamina propria, similarly we have muscularis mucosa. Yes, so these are some of the means the layers, the basic layers here are here, that is of 4 layers. On broad basis there are 4 layers which are present in the stomach or small intestine or the large intestine. Now coming to the mucosa. Mucosa is very important in the small intestine, because in the mucosa the structure which is responsible for the absorption are present, means the villi, the microvilli, they are present in the mucosa layer. Yes. So, see in the mucosa what is there? The innermost layer. Now, in the mucosa the villi are present, and these villi are tiny finger like projections. You can see these are tiny finger like projections, they are increasing the surface area. Yes. Their shapes are increasing the surface area for the absorption. That is why the 90% of absorption is occurring in the small intestine area. So, the villi are tiny finger like projections of the mucosal layer into the intestinal lumen, which is comprising of nearly 0.5 to 1 mm in length. Now, the walls of these villi consist of columnar epithelial cells or enterocytes. So, here you can see in these this is the villi structure, there are the enterocytes, means these cells you can see, these all these cells are enterocytes. Yes, the intestinal cells or epithelium cells, and in these of the enterocytes you can see a very fine projections are there. Yes, and these fine projections are microvilli. So, the same is written, the walls consist of columnar epithelium cells or enterocytes with tiny microvilli which is approximately 1 micrometer. Yes, very small, 1 micrometer on their free borders. So, here in the diagram you can see. Yes. Now, goblet cells are present. In the initial slides or previous lecture also I told you the goblet cells. These goblet cells are responsible for the production of mucus. Yes. So, the goblet cells that secrete the mucus are interspersed between the enterocytes. So, we will see the structure of this whole section. So, in between of these enterocyte cells there are some of the goblet cells are present. Yes, and these goblet cells are producing mucus, which is beneficial, which is protecting the walls of the small intestine. Now, see these epithelium cells or enterocytes enclose a network of blood and lymph capillaries. There are lymph capillaries are present, there are blood capillaries are present. So, these the lymph capillaries are called as a lacteals. Yes, there is a one name which need to be star marked. The lymph capillaries are lacteals here, because why we are saying lacteals it, because they are absorbing the fat. Yes, which is giving the milky appearance to the lymph. That is why we are naming it as lacteals. Yes. Then see the intestinal glands are simple. There are some intestinal glands are also present in this epithelial area. So, the intestinal glands are present which is producing the intestinal juices. These intestinal glands are simple tubular glands. Yes, and they are situated below the surface between the villi. So, in between of villi we can see below of that particular villi there are some intestinal glands present, and these intestinal glands are producing intestinal juices required for the digestion of the this food. Now, after it we have covered about the intestinal glands or the goblet cells or the epithelial cells, the villi, the microvilli. Apart from it, there are lymph nodes present in the small intestine. So, numerous lymph nodes are found in the mucosa layer, the innermost layer of the small intestine. Now, there are some small nodes. So, the smaller nodes are known as solitary lymphatic follicles. Yes, so you need to remember about solitary lymphatic follicles. They are smaller ones. What they are doing? They are providing the defense mechanism. Yes, so about 20 to 30 large nodes situated towards the distal end of the ileum. If we will see the large nodes, so there are two type of nodes, lymph nodes. One is the smaller ones, another is the large ones. Smaller ones is known as a solitary lymphatic follicles, whereas the large one is known as a aggregated lymphatic follicles, which is also known as Peyer's patches. You need to know about the Peyer's patches. What do you mean by Peyer's patches? They are nothing but they are the aggregated lymphatic follicles. They are providing defense to the small intestine. Yes, and they are the larger ones. Nearly they are consisting of 20 to 30 larger nodes. Yes, so this is important here. Now, these lymphatic tissue packed with defensive cells are strategically placed to neutralize ingested antigens, whatever the foreign antigens from the outside we are taking. Yes, these antigens are neutralized, they are killed by this lymphatic follicles, either it is a small or it is large. Small is solitary follicles, lymphatic follicles, and large is the aggregated lymphatic follicles, which is also known as Pierre patches. Now coming to the blood supply. So, superior mesenteric artery, this is supplying the small intestine area, and superior mesenteric vein, this is supplying means this is the venous supply. Yes, they are the veins in the small intestine area which is supplying the blood. I will talk about the intestinal juices which is produced by the intestinal glands present in the small intestine area. So, what it consists of? It is consisting nearly 1500 ml daily. It is secreted by the glands of the small intestine. It is consisting water, mucus and mineral salts. Now, the pH of the intestinal juice is nearly 7.8 to 8. Now, coming to the functions of small intestine. So, what are the functions small intestine is providing? The very important function is the absorption of nutrient. Yes. So, we will start from the very basic functions. First is the peristalsis here. Yes. So, movement of the food. Then completion of chemical digestion. We are using completion term. It is very specific for the small intestine only. So, this completion will be there of the food, either it is carbohydrate or protein or the fat in the enterocytes of the villi. So, the completion will be occurring in the enterocyte cells. Protection is provided against infection through lymph nodes. Yes. Then secretion of hormones. The hormones such as cholecystokinin, CCK and secretin. There are two hormones which are produced by the small intestine, cholecystokinin and secretin. What these hormones are doing, listen it. Cholecystokinin, this particular hormone is activating the contraction of gallbladder. Yes, and secretin is enhancing the secretion of bile. So, ultimately what they are doing, they are causing the production of the bile which will ultimately emulsify the fats, which will ultimately come in the duodenum to emulsify the cholesterol. Yes. So, they are important for the cholesterol metabolism or the fat metabolism. Now, coming to the absorption of nutrients, it is a very important function. Now, coming to the large intestine. So, we have covered about the small intestine area and the small intestine area or small intestine part, it is in between of the stomach or the large intestine. In a small intestine we have covered there are three parts. Yes, jejunum, they start from the duodenum and then there is a jejunum and then ileum. And then in the these of the areas the food content will go from the duodenum to the ileum and then it will come in the cecum, which is the very first part of the large intestine. Most of the absorption of the nutrient, it is completed in the small intestine. So, the waste product or the food which is not for the absorption, that will come out in the large intestine for the expulsion, yes, in the form of fecus. So, see here the large intestine area. The large intestine is about 1.5 meters. So, we will see the comparison between the length of the small intestine and large intestine, which one is longer? The small intestine is longer. Yes. Then why we are saying it large intestine is a large? Just because of the diameter. Yes, see. So, the diameter we will see that is approximately 6.5 centimeter. And what is the diameter of small intestine? So, I told you it was nearly 2.5 centimeter in the small intestine. So the diameter is more, that's why we are saying it as a large intestine. Now see what are the other parts, other points here. The large intestine is about 1.5 meters long, beginning from the cecum and terminating at the rectum and anal canal. Yes, diameter is 6.5 centimeter, which is larger than the small intestine. This is the diagram here. You can see the part here. It start from the cecum area. So the inner area is the inner portion you can see here is the small intestine. Yes, very first part here is the cecum. Then there is a second part, you can see the colon here. Yes, so the colon here is the ascending colon, then this is the ascending colon. Yes, then there is a transverse colon, then you can see here there is a descending colon. So there is a one area called as a colon. Yes, you will see apart from the parts of the colon, ascending colon, transverse colon and descending colon, there is a one area here which is in this sigma shape, which is known as a sigmoid colon. Yes, so this colon area is divided into four parts: ascending, transverse, descending and sigmoid. Then later on we will see there is a rectum. This area is the rectum, and then there is a anal canal. This region is anal canal, which is for the expulsion of the food. Yes, means the expulsion of the fecus, that is best or appropriate. Now see, large intestine is divided into cecum, colon, rectum and anal canal. And I told you in the diagram, colon is also divided into four parts: ascending, transverse, descending and sigmoid. Yes. So coming to the cecum, the first part of the large intestine, it usually about 8 to 9 centimeter long, and it has the same structure as of the walls of the gastrointestinal tract. Means there are basically four layers. One is the adventitia or serosa layer, the outermost layer. Then there is a you will see from the outermost to the innermost, I am telling about that particular configuration. So the outermost is the serosa, then there is a muscle layer, then submucosa, and the innermost layer is the mucosa. So this is the configuration you will see, that is the same structure we are saying here as of the GI gastrointestinal tract, but contains more lymphoid tissue. So their lymphoid tissues are present. Now we will see the second part after the cecum is the colon. It consisting of four parts. I told you already in the diagram: ascending, transverse, descending and sigmoid, which is in sigma in shape. Yes. Now there is a rectum. Yes, the third part. So rectum is a slightly dilated section of the large intestine, which is nearly 13 centimeter long. Yes, and it leads from the sigmoid area, sigmoid colon area, to the anal canal. So in between of that there is a rectum. Anal canal is the very short passage which is consisting of nearly 3.6 centimeter or 3.8 centimeter, and it is for the expulsion of the content from the rectum to the exterior. Yes. So these are the parts of the large intestine. I hope this is clear to all of you about these parts which are present in the large intestine. Now we will see the structure. So from the very initial I was telling about the structure. In the very first slides I told you about the structure of the GI tract. Similarly for the stomach, for the small intestine, large intestine, the structure is same. So in the similar manner for the large intestine, the four layers of tissues are there, which is described in the basic structure of the GI tract, are present in the cecum, colon, rectum and anal canal. Means the serosa are the outermost layer, then coming to the inner there is a muscle layer, longitudinal and circular, the same, and then there is a submucosa and then mucosa layer. Yes. Now coming to the blood supply. So blood supply is from the superior and inferior mesenteric arteries. Yes. We will see these veins. So there are the superior and inferior mesenteric veins. So, both superior and inferior are involved here. Yes. Now, coming to the functions of large intestine, rectum and anal canal. In the small intestine, we have covered some functions. Similarly, for the large intestine, there are some functions. What are the functions? See, the first function is the absorption. Yes, it is absorbing some of the mineral salts, vitamins, some of the drugs, but the absorption is very, very less. Yes, majority of absorption is occurring from the small intestine area. Nearly less than 10% is occurring from the large intestine area. Means the water need to be absorbed, reabsorbed from the large intestine. So that is absorbed from here. So absorption is one of the function of large intestine. Then there is a microbial activity. See what is happened. There are some of the microbes which are present in the large intestine area, like E. coli is there. Then there is a Enterobacter aerogenus. Then there is a Streptococcus faecalis and Clostridium perfringens. These are commensals. Commensals means they are good for body, but if they are deported to some other organs or they move to some other organs, they can cause damage to our body. Yes, so they are commensals for specific part. Yes, their numbers need to be maintained properly. Yes, so if there is a disturbance in the in their area where they are living, yes, or their numbers that is fluctuated, of course there will be problem. So these are commensals and they are not harmful in humans, only for that particular area. Yes, so these organisms, what they are doing, the large intestine area is heavily colonized by these type of bacteria, and these bacteria are helpful for synthesizing the vitamin K. They are helpful for the formation of folic acid, yes, which is required for our body. So this is one of the function of the large intestine, the production or the synthesis of vitamin K and folic acid by these bacteria. Now coming to the mass movement. This is also responsible for the mass movement, not only the large intestine, but also the stomach. There is a peristalsis movement which is going in the stomach, there is a peristalsis movement going on in the esophagus area, then a small intestine. Similarly, there is a peristalsis which is going in the large intestine area, means the fecus which is formed, the waste product which is formed, that need to be come out from the body. Yes, means here we are using it as peristalsis or mass movement. Then ultimately the major function, yes, that is a defecation. So defecation is going on from the large intestine, which is involving involuntary contraction. So there is not voluntary movement, means this is not by ourselves, this is the involuntary contraction of the muscle of rectum and the relaxation of the internal anal sphincters, the channel, the openings. And from that opening, from the involuntary contraction, there will be the fecus that will come out. Yes, and the fecus here we can see here, the fecus here we are talking is of semi solid brown color, which is due to one of the chemicals stercobilin. Yes, now this stercobilin is formed from the that is a metabolic product of the bilirubin. Yes, in the later slides I also discuss about the how bilirubin is converted into stercobilin, but here what is important is the which chemical or which particular agent is causing the color, providing the color in the fecus. So that is the stercobilin. Yes, I hope this is clear to all of you about the anatomy and function of the small intestine as well as for the large intestine. So thank you so much everyone. We will meet in the next session with the further part of the digestive system.